How's it going, homies? Week 3 is here, and I'm here just to give you a brief overview and rundown of what's going on this week. As far as going over previous week stuff, I'll do that in separate posts. This is just the one as you start week 3 here, the beginning of week 3. You just have a clear understanding of what you need to do to get started and start working on this week's stuff. It's amazing how Monday night comes, the Moody Mondays come and they go, and all of a sudden week 3 is here and it's time to get reading. I would encourage a lot of you guys, you guys are, well, if you have jobs, you have jobs, and that kind of runs your schedule. And some of you guys have the same schedule every week, some of you guys have different schedules every week, but ultimately, um, Tuesday's a day where okay, you were probably working on assignments and maybe up late on Monday night getting stuff in, but make Tuesday like a nice, like relaxed, if you've got the flexibility to go to a coffee shop and start your reading and just pump yourself full of caffeine and just relax and get a lot of reading done. That's even though it's a change of pace. Don't look at Tuesday as a day off because you worked really hard on Monday. Let's be honest, a lot of you guys didn't do anything on Saturday and Sunday, and those are your days off. So Tuesday's not a day off. Tuesday's just, I would say a relaxed reading day. You don't have to start working on your assignments, but you do need to start reading and enjoy it. It's like think of it as an extended quiet time day. Um, so whatever time you have on Tuesday, whether that's in the evening, the morning, or the afternoon, make it your reading day so you don't get behind and all of a sudden it's Wednesday or Thursday before you get anything really done. So this week, as usual, here's your stuff for the reading report. The Spencer and Meek is a PDF. Click that. Fee and Stewart is a PDF, and click that. The Duval and the Bayless books are your textbooks that you have. What I need you guys to continue to do is if the page numbers are off. First of all, the page numbers will not be off. For the PDFs, just read the PDFs. For the textbooks, just make sure you're reading the accurate chapter. So the Old Testament law and the base prophetic message, and then chapter 6, a new nation, the law. That is correct, and chapter 7 is correct. I'm not sure if the page numbers align absolutely 100%, so don't get too bent out of shape. If the page numbers seem weird, just make sure you're reading the proper section because the sections are accurate, okay? And then here's your Bible reading that you need to do this week. Um, not that much Bible reading actually. A few chapters from Exodus and Deuteronomy, and then Hosea and Amos. Now, you probably have seen my updates already on assignment 4.2. You do not need to start working on that. And if you have any questions on that, just read what I posted in Facebook about that. But essentially, this course tends to remind you to start working on things. But really, unless I say otherwise, well, I'll go over it each week. I'll go over some of these other things it says to start working on, but you actually don't need to start working on them, and I think it's confusing to have you start working on them. We have enough assignments for you to worry about that week's assignments. This one also is just a one page. Assignment 4.2 is related to assignment 8.2, so it's just basically giving the your theme and summary of what you're going to be doing in your paper, and that does not take 2+ weeks to do. This is something that you can do next week. You're going to get through this week's reading and even part of next week's reading. If you want to look at the themes that are associated with this week, go ahead and go to the syllabus, go to the schedule and syllabus, and go down to 8.2 and look at the themes that it suggests you doing, and go from there. And look at those if you want to start thinking about it, but you don't need to do anything for 4.2. Also for 5.1, the covenant enforcement worksheet. This is a worksheet. And by the way, with the worksheets, we're not going to give you tons of feedback on that. You should be getting full credit. We're only going to be really marking you down if you missed something significant with it. And then at the end of the week that a worksheet is due, we'll give you like an example of here is kind of like a perfect worksheet that someone turned in that you can go back and look at yours and go off of there. So those are not, don't look at those as papers where you're wanting to see what did my professor think of my thoughts on this, that, and the other. The worksheets are more set up so that, well, you don't have to take a quiz. We're in this course we're avoiding quizzes, because quizzes sometimes aren't the most effective means to show students put the work in and interacted with the material. So we're having you do worksheets, and as long as you're doing the worksheet, and you should be finding the correct info and putting it in there. But you can start reading through this. It's not due till week 5. We're only in week 3. Um, but you're essentially going to find 10 parallels in your Amos and Hosea reading, and you're going to fill them into this table in your covenant enforcement worksheet that you'll see there in week 5. Um, and so you're going to be dealing with things like Israel's moral failings in the eyes of the law and Israel's blessings for obedience, or the coming judgment for Israel's failure to obey the covenant. So those are the things you're working on, but again, you don't need to worry about that this week either. Um, you really just have the reading this week as well as the discussion board. However, you do have assignments coming. So if, for instance, you're planning in the next couple weeks to have a lot less time than you have this week, and you really do want to start doing the assignments, you're going to need to start flipping to the next week. We give you, while I make videos every week, we give you access to all the instructions and the info you need to do those assignments at any given time. So you can start working ahead and doing those, and if you need to. But if you have planned out that everything is going to be about the same as far as time that you're given at any given week, you don't need to worry about working ahead on those. It's meant for you to do it in that given week. So the discussion this week, let me go over that, and that's the other big thing this week. All right. So many Christians avoid the legal literature in the Bible. However, it's too crucial to skip over that stuff, from the events at Mount Sinai all the way to the beginning of the book of Joshua. The reader's primary complaint is that the law is boring. You just get all these rules and laws, and it says don't do this and don't do this and don't do that and that and that. Many also feel that it does not represent the God that they know and love. So we see kind of this split personality. Why is God in the law saying all this and doing all this? And then we see him so much more loving through the lens of Jesus and so forth. Well, one reason is that the law is often correlated with legalism, obviously, and then also the law appears to be all too thorough, covering everything from sanitation to sex. Some portions of the law are even hard to read, such as when it graphically describes ailments and suggests treatments, which you are going to see through your reading. Nonetheless, the law is central to the Hebrew Bible and is an undergirding theme for the New Testament. It is not only important that students understand the law, but also appreciate it and know how to apply it today. Remember, David said that the law of the Lord is perfect, reviving or restoring the soul. He also said that he loved the law, meditated on it day and night. Christ said that he came to fulfill the law, not abolish it. And Paul says in Romans 7 that the law is holy and he delights in it. All right, so this isn't in the Old Testament they had the law, in the New Testament we had grace. It doesn't actually work that way. The law was not abolished and therefore it was replaced with grace. The law was fulfilled through the act of grace, but it doesn't mean that we throw it out. In this assignment, you will study the law to A, examine what it itself shows about God's care for his people, and also B, apply it to Christians today. Examine one of the following passages. So you just need to pick one of these passages, and you're going to do the following with it. Discuss how it demonstrates God's intense precautionary love for Israel. So while you're looking at the things like the lists and things that could be looked at as legalism, when you're studying this passage, one of these passages, I want you to discuss how this actually demonstrates God's intense love for Israel by cautioning them, meaning that he's protecting them through the law. In other words, how does each of these laws serve Israel in such a way as they would in the end actually be blessed? Secondly, applying through principalization or crossing the bridge, the passage to the life of a New Testament Christian today. So attempt to take that principle of the law and cross that bridge from the Old Testament to the New Testament. So how are we to apply a law such as if he's telling them not to eat certain things, or he's telling them how to care for certain wounds, how does that apply to us? What's the significance of him doing that? How do we apply that to the life of the New Testament Christian today? Okay, so again, just one of these passages you're taking for your discussion board post. You're making your post again as usual by Friday night, and then over the weekend up to Monday night, you're interacting with at least 2 classmates. Or, as I usually allow you to do, if you would prefer to add significantly to your original post instead of interacting with the classmate, um, that's fine as well. Okay? So, the other thing I wanted to remind you something else about the law itself, right? Israel was invited to be what? A kingdom of priests, a holy nation. They rejected that invitation. I may talk about that a little bit on another post. But remember, they said, no, Moses, we're scared. You go up on the mountain and essentially be the priest unto God for us, because they were scared. God invited them into this holy um, relationship where they were going to be a kingdom of priests, and yet they rejected that. And then Moses had to, and then he had to. God assigned a specific tribe of people to be the priests. That essentially put them in a place where they had more or less that distance between God, and of course, not living in the time of grace through the blood of Christ. They needed essentially a structure set up by God in order to be a holy people, and a lot of that were rules to keep them safe, not because that was God's original intent for them to be um, just living under a bunch of rules. Now they've developed religious systems. The religious system um, that you see in the New Testament, where Christ comes in and there's these guys of these Pharisees and Sadducees. You never see that in the Old Testament, right? God did not ordain Pharisees and Sadducees. Pharisees and Sadducees were developed in Judaism to essentially form this religious system where they enforced the rules. That is legalism. That was not God's even original intent for the law itself. The law was meant to usher them in light of the fact that they had rejected an invitation from God on one front, to be a people that were still set apart and holy from the essentially the attacks of living in a world in chaos. So that's part of it. That's not all of it, but I want that to be kind of like your framework and mindset as you start discussing these things this week for the discussion board. So questions, let me know. Enjoy things as you get started. In some ways, a little bit lighter of a week. No actual assignments due this week, so take advantage of that. And if you've got the time to start reading and working on next week's stuff, do that, but get this week's stuff done first. All right? Love and blessings to you all. Enjoy the reading of the law, and see you soon.